Hey everyone, welcome to Princess of Gay and welcome to another holiday special reaction. Today we are going to be reacting to Mixed Nuts, a comedy uh, starring Steve Martin. This is from the 90s, I believe. I don't know really much of anything else about it. It's a holiday movie starring Steve Martin. It's a comedy and it's from the 90s. Um, Now, I like Steve Martin. He's a good actor. He's been in a lot of great movies, such as Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, just as an example. Um, Little Shop of Horrors, other stuff like that. He's really funny, and he's good at playing characters who are kind of a bit of a Scrooge, you could say. I don't know if that's what's going to happen here, but I could definitely see it. He's good at playing characters who have a mean side to them. He's always been really good at that. He's also good at playing nicer characters, of course. It just depends on the role, and I really had very little issue with him in most of the roles I've seen him in. And for a holiday movie, I think it will work. I think he could definitely do a holiday film. I mean, technically, he's done other ones. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles is a Thanksgiving film. So, like, it actively is a Thanksgiving movie. So it's like, yeah. Now, like I said, I don't know anything about this. So I'm very interested to find out, like, what this is about. I was basically just this was one of those movies where it's like, okay, I'm searching for holiday movies to do for this special. And I found this, and it's like, oh, I've never actually heard of this one before, so let's check it out. It's like the next two I've heard of before, but this and the Sailor Moon one, it's like, I mean, I knew there were Sailor Moon movies, but I never like knew about that film specifically. Technically, either of the ones we ended up reacting to because of how bad I fucked up, but um, yeah, this is another one I've just never heard of before. And it's not that surprising. I mean, Steve Martin's been acting long enough to where it's like, of course I'm not going to know every movie he's been in. But yeah, so I'm definitely interested to see what this is about. Um, and obviously, with pretty much all these movies, they are centered around Christmas because of how Christmas has become really the most celebrated holiday, and honestly, with how this country has been run and everything, a lot of other holidays just don't get the recognition they deserve. There are so few Hanukkah movies, and pretty much nothing else. Like there's like I don't think there's any movies, at least not that I've seen, that are Kwanzaa focused or anything that's focused on like Yule or anything. And it's like it's all Christmas, and it's like even if it's the most celebrated, it's like you could still have more. You could still do other things. There's just so little representation for these other holidays, and it's like that's one of the biggest reasons why I go out of my way to say Happy Holidays and call this a holiday special and everything, rather than say Merry Christmas or call this a Christmas special, because even though all of these films are focused more on the specific holiday of Christmas, it's like I want to acknowledge that there are other stuff out there, and I want to let people know who might watch this that I see you, and that I want to show you that I do care. Not everybody does, but I do, and I want to make it known that I understand that there are a lot more holidays celebrated during this time of year than just Christmas. Even though I personally celebrate Christmas myself, it's not just about me. So I want people to know that I'm on your side with that. I'll say Happy Holidays instead of Merry Christmas all the time because I don't know what everyone celebrates, and I'm not just going to assume. I'm not a dick like that. But yeah, unfortunately, and I did try, it's very hard to find like Hanukkah based movies or anything else, especially. Um, that's why I love it when like stuff like the Ghost of Molly McGee puts out like a Hanukkah episode, and it's like, oh, that's really cool. That's awesome. I love that because it's like something you never see. And it's like the one big Hanukkah movie like everybody knows about is Eight Crazy Nights, and I hate that that's what they know it for because it's like it's such a crude and honestly disgusting film. And it's like, what other Hanukkah representation do you really have? Like, seriously. It's really sad. It's genuinely really sad. But yeah, so we are going to be watching this on YouTube, actually. I rented it on YouTube simply because the site I normally download movies from doesn't have this on there. I don't know if this movie was like one of those that flew under the radar and just didn't do well, but it wasn't on that site. So I couldn't find it anywhere else on any of the other sites I used to download it. So I'm just renting it on YouTube. It was like $3.99 to rent on YouTube, and it's like I can spare that. I don't know if there will be any issues in regards to that. I hope not. I really hope not. But I'm just letting you know ahead of time because we've had some issues like doing that with YouTube before. Though we've also had issues with subtitles on YouTube with rented movies and stuff. But that shouldn't be an issue here. But I'm just hoping there's no like lagging or anything. Hopefully there shouldn't be. But yeah, I don't know if there's anyone else in this that I know. I don't, like I said, I don't really know anything else about this movie. But I'm excited to find out, so we're going to get right into this. So when the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black, then it fades back in. Everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the movie. So, that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So, just right off the bat, give my initial impressions. I'm mixed on this movie, which I guess is fitting considering it's called Mixed Nuts. There's a couple things I notably like, and a couple characters I notably like. But the movie as a whole is so boring. Like, for lack of a better term, to put it simply, the movie is so slowly paced and so monotonous. It feels like it's moving like slower than a snail most of the time. And it's just, there's like no real story to it. It's a sequence of vaguely connected events that are so jarringly mishandled that it's wild that this in some way came together as a film. It's if I were to give it a rating just off of initial impressions out of 10, I would probably have to say 4. And it only gets a 4 because of the good stuff that was in it, the stuff that I liked, the characters that I liked. So even the acting, like, there are some good actors in here, but it's just like even the best of the performances weren't amazing. I would probably say the best performances went to Steve Martin, obviously, and Liev Schreiber, actually. Which is interesting because I looked it up, and this is Liev Schreiber's very first film role. So the fact that he did so well and so convincingly compared to most of the other cast is kind of wild. Um, and I'll get to the stuff with that in a bit, by the way. Like I said, I would. But this movie is so disjointed and so ridiculous. It's like most of the comedy in it is just so unfunny. Like not even unfunny as in like a cringy way. Unfunny as in like it's just not funny. It's just not comedy. It's like what was the joke supposed to be here? Because I genuinely do not understand what it could have been. Um, it's like it's basically what it amounts to is chaos, unfiltered, ridiculous chaos. The only semblance of a story is the fact that all of this is centering around this suicide prevention hotline that is in danger of going out of business because they don't have the $5,000 in order to keep it afloat because it's not a very profitable job because of course it's not. That's the only semblance of a story to this. There's some things that connect throughout it, such as the subplots with the different characters and the seaside strangler subplot, which is just kind of thrown in and resolved randomly in the end. It's so absolutely disjointed that it's I cannot understand how this was put together into a full film. But again, some of the stuff that was enjoyable was really enjoyable. Um, for example, let's talk about Chris, because there are some mixed feelings on Chris, but there a lot of it is positive. I will say, Chris is a trans woman who is mocked and misunderstood by her family, and despite being around them, feels insanely alone, especially during the holiday season. And so she calls the hotline to to talk to someone and asks to come over. And they give her, even though it's against their policy, give her the address after she starts crying. She heads over and eventually gets to meet the crazy people who are involved with it all. Dances with Steve Martin's character, and eventually even makes a connection with Louis, Adam Sandler's character. Her role in the film is actually taken surprisingly seriously. For a movie from '94, she's not a joke. To have a trans female character, or a trans character in general, in the '90s, to be actually treated as a reasonable character who, while mocked by others in the film, is portrayed in a very good way and who is likable and one of the best put together characters in this film, which is saying something. That's actually a big deal. She was not treated as comic relief or as a joke or anything. And honestly, even the only times, like even like Steve Martin's character mocks or makes fun of her, is because of the stress he's under. He even it basically acknowledges it by saying he didn't mean it, and he apologizes even because he's under so much stress, and there's so much exceptional zaniness going on that he basically loses control. And that's obviously in real life no excuse. But the point is, like, this movie very much treats her as a character, as a person, and I appreciate that. But that also brings forth a problem. She's played by a cis straight male actor. At least I believe Liev Schreiber is straight. I'm not 100% on that, but I believe he is. Um, and this is obviously a problem that's existed pretty much since trans people were put on film. Most of the time, they have been portrayed by cisgender, especially especially trans female characters have been portrayed by cisgender men, and it's very much perpetuated the harmful stereotype that a trans woman is just a man in a dress. It's exceptionally dangerous and horrible and disgusting. But at the same time, it's mixed for me because she was treated like a character. She was very much treated as her own character, as a real person, and not as just a joke. But it was still a cis man playing her, and that's not okay. That's not right. And obviously nowadays we've gotten better with stuff like this, but it's that kind of stuff does still happen, unfortunately. And it's just the fact of the matter is when you have characters who are from discriminated against classes of people like this, they should always be portrayed by people who represent, actors who represent that class of people whenever possible. That's always the case, and especially trans people. Because even if a cisgender actor can do a good job in a performance, they won't be able to fully grasp what it means to be trans and to portray that on film. A cisgender actor, even if they know trans people and are friends or are family with trans people, they themselves will not understand. Because it's not their experience. It's not their truth. The only people who can truly understand trans people are trans people. So there's a lot of complexity there that should not be portrayed by a cisgender actor. Especially, again, in this case, a male actor portraying a trans woman. So, while Chris may have been one of the better characters of this film, and Liev Schreiber's performance was great, I nonetheless can't fully accept this. I can't fully get behind it because of the stereotypes being perpetuated, because of the loss of a role that could have gone to a actual trans actor. And if you don't think trans actors and all existed back then, you are very wrong. They very much did, and they do exist today. But most of the other actors in this, moving on from that, weren't like the worst didn't give like the worst performances in the world or anything, but they were just kind of like, it didn't seem like they were trying a lot. Like Mrs. Munchnick's actress, let me get the names here. Madeline Kahn. It's like, you can do better than that. And Juliette Lewis as Gracie, Rob Reiner was Dr. Kinski. It's like they can all do better than this. They were, it seemed like they were basically phoning it in. They were not giving it their all, and it's very apparent. The only ones who I really did feel were Steve Martin and Liev Schreiber. And then you have Adam Sandler, who, if you've seen a movie where Adam Sandler has played a a mentally challenged, childlike character, then this performance is nothing new to you. He's played this character, this same type of character, in so many movies and whatnot, and it's never good. Adam Sandler can actually be a really good actor at times, even in comedic roles. Have you seen Happy Gilmore? He's great in that. And he's also good at more serious roles. He was fantastic in Click, for example. He's actually a really good actor. The problem is his style oftentimes can be so goofy, it's distracting and just not good. This is an example of like one of these types of characters that he plays that just does not work and never has. I don't know if this is one of the earliest times he's portrayed this kind of character, but it's not good. It's really not good. But yeah, he at least was one of the ones they are showing caring for Chris. His character Louis was showing to care for Chris, and like I mean, at the end scene when they were all together, like they kissed, so I guess they're together as well. But yeah, it's just like he's annoying. It's just Adam Sandler being annoying. Um, but let's talk about what other people thought of this. As always, I'm going to go over some reviews and stuff here real quick, and that'll probably end off these afterthoughts. So, as always, we start off with Rotten Tomatoes, and as always, I warn you to be critical of Rotten Tomatoes' critical consensus. Take Rotten Tomatoes with a grain of salt because their rating system is honestly not great. Not to mention, oftentimes Rotten Tomatoes scores very much do not vibe with how most people actually view movies. Sometimes they do, but not always. Take it with a grain of salt, form your own opinions. That's what I always say. Anyways, on Rotten Tomatoes, the film holds an approval rating of 13% based on 31 reviews, with an average rating of 3.1 out of 10, which is a little worse than I gave it, even. The website's critical consensus reads, "Mixed nuts may provoke strong allergic reactions in all but the most undemanding filmgoers, and the most forgiving Steve Martin fans." Basically, it's saying that people aren't going to like this unless they're just people who don't really care about quality. That's basically what it's saying. The most undemanding filmgoers. It's basically saying if you don't care about the quality of a film, you might enjoy this. Or the most forgiving Steve Martin fans, basically saying, oh, like you absolutely adore Steve Martin in anything he's in just because he's in it. It's like, oh yeah, you might enjoy this. That's basically what it's saying. It's like that's a very passive aggressive way to word that. And I'm speaking as someone who wasn't a huge fan of the movie. On Metacritic, the film had a weighted average score of 14 out of 100 based on 16 critics, indicating overwhelming dislike. Audiences surveyed on CinemaScore gave the film a grade C+ on a scale of A to F. That's definitely the best one out of these three sites, and that's the actual like audience score too, comparatively. Janet Maslin's review in the New York Times mentioned a corpse depicted in the story. Yes, that was by the end. And wrote that the film is about as funny as that corpse and about as natural. It's not funny. It's really not funny for the most part. There's maybe a couple things that were a little funny, but Variety staff wrote, director slash co-scripter Nora Ephron pitches the humor at a cacophonous level and displays the comedic equivalent of Two Left Feet, in evolving the absurdist slapstick yarn. Truly alarming is watching some fine performers, including Khan and LaPaglia, at their very worst. I wouldn't, again, I kind of mentioned this, I wouldn't say they were at their very worst. I've seen worse performances. But this was, they weren't at their best either. Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times wrote, the movie has a first-rate cast and crew. It's Nora Ephron's first directing job since the wonderful Sleepless in Seattle. Maybe there's too much talent. Every character shines with such dazzling intensity and such inexhaustible comic invention that the movie becomes tiresome, like too many clowns. Okay, so apparently Roger Ebert thought it was like it was bad because everyone was too good, which is like weird. It's like too much talent. Every character shines. It's like, no, they don't. Dazzling intensity, inexhaustible comic invention. It's like, what? No. I've disagreed with a lot of Roger Ebert's findings, but wow. Michael Dwyer in the Irish Times, reviewing it upon its European release, called Ephron's film a truly pathetic effort. That's rude. I'm not going to say something like that. That's rude. And one of the worst films I've ever seen. Now, that's just an opinion thing. That you can say. I actually want to check something with this. Just to finish off this last bit here. I want to see what the audience gave it on Rotten Tomatoes. I did this with another movie recently. We heard about what the critic consensus was, 13%. But let's see what the audience said. Okay, so the audience, based on 5,000 plus ratings, gave it a 47%, which is more of what I would say. I would say a 47% is more around my ranking for it. Like I said, a 4 out of 10, which would be about 40%. I would say that's more accurate because there are good things in the film. There are some good things, but overall, it's not that great. There are so many issues with it. There are things that I just can't get over, considering what they basically amount to and everything, such as, again, the casting behind the trans character. And overall, a lot of it was just boring. Like, there were a lot of times watching this where I was either looking at my phone because I had a message, or there were times where I was checking the time because it's like, I'm just like wondering, is this still going? How far into this are we? And what's the runtime on this? How long actually was this? An hour and 37 minutes. Probably including all the credits, so just under that for what we saw. But it's like, it felt over 2 hours long. It felt so much longer. And it's just like, wow, this, again, just had so many notable issues. Just so many. And again, it's not the worst film I've seen. It's not even the worst film I've reacted to. I've seen much worse. I've seen much more offensive films. Films that are just a lot harder to sit through and a lot more unenjoyable. This one at least had some stuff to it that was good. So there's that at least. Either way, yeah, I would say that this is more of a miss than a hit, though. And at least I checked it out. I can never be upset with having checked out a film because I don't know what I'm going to think of it before I see it. So, I'm perfectly happy with having given it a chance, even if it just wasn't a hit for me. Um, so tell me in the comments below, what did you think of Mixed Nuts? Let me know, and next time on our continuing holiday special, we go with another Christmas comedy film with Bill Murray's Scrooged. So that will be next week. And for now, once again, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.